Good morning, everybody. We're in the Bavli Maseches Gittin, second Perek, Daf Tes Vav Menal by the Mishna. Maybe get in Dinas Hayam. Somebody who brings a get from overseas. The Omar B'fana Nichtav. He says that it was written in front of me. So you remember we had in the first Perek that a shaliach, a messenger who brings a get from overseas, has to say B'fana Nichtav B'fana Nechtam. Chum established. He has to say it was written and signed in front of me. What if a shliach comes from overseas and instead of saying that it was both written and signed in front of me, he says b'fanei nichtav v'lo b'fanei nechtam. It was written in front of me but not signed. Or he says b'fanei nechtam v'lo b'fanei nechtam. Was signed but not written. So he didn't do the entire takanas chacham. B'fanei nichtav kuloi b'fanei nechtam chetzio. In front of me it was entirely written, but it was only half signed. What does that mean, half signed? Only one of the witnesses signed in front of me. In front of me it was written only halfway, but signed totally. Possible. It's possible. You have to do the whole procedure over again. I don't think the get is possible, but you can't use this get right now as is in this current situation. The way the shliach brought it, you have to basically go back to Bavli, start all over again, wherever he's coming from. Start again. You have to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. Oh, but now we're talking about what if you have two people who brought a get? If one of the shluchim say it was written in front of me, and the other one says it was signed in front of me. Also, it's forbidden. So the question is, what are we talking about? Remember, we had a machlokes between Rav and Rava. Is it because that they're not baki that it has to be the shema, or is it because there's not edim that are mitzuyim l'kaim? If it's purely because any edim mitzuyim l'kaim, two shluchim who are going to bring the get are not going to have to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. So the question is, if you have two shluchim, why do we say that it's possible if only one? If one says b'fanei nichtav, one says b'fanei nechtam. There's two. You don't have to, according to Rava. So Rashi explains. There's like a Rashi. He says, if we're talking about that there's only one shliach, that's why it's possible. Because the shliach has to say, b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. You can't have your friend help you. There's only one shliach. And if we're talking about that there's two shluchim, so according to the opinion that two shluchim don't have to say, why is there a problem if they say, well, if one says b'fanei nichtav, the other one says b'fanei nechtam? It's possible. Because you're going to get mixed up. Maybe if they don't say anything at all, it's one thing. But if they do say something, but they say it in an improper way, it's a gzeira that you might get mixed up. That's what Rashi explains based on the Gemara later on. Daf Tezayin would base. Yeah.
David, where are you? I'm sorry, I just got in.
Oh, sure. We're on Daf Tes Vav Amud Aleph, 15a.
Yeah.
5 lines in the Mishna.
Got it.
So we just explained that apostle. I'll go it over again. If you have two shluchim, there's two ways of explaining this case. Either there's only one shliach, but he didn't do what he has to do. He has to say b'fanei nechtam. He only said either b'fanei nichtav or b'fanei nechtam, and his friend helped him out. That's no good. Or if they're both shluchim, Rashi explains, even though theoretically they don't have to say anything at all, the moment they do say something and they're saying it in an improper way, we make a gzeira that it's disqualified because you might mix up with other shtaris where there's only one shliach, and the shliach has to say both things. So if they say the wrong, if they don't say anything, it's better. If they say the wrong thing, it's disqualified. What if two people say it was written in front of us and the third says it's possible? Says it was signed, it's possible. Again, you have a question why two shluchim don't have to say anything. It's the same shot, because you're going to mix it up with kim shtaris dalma. But Rabbi Yehuda says it's fine. What does he mean when he says it's fine? Because Poyel Mamish, one of the shluchim is being testifying about both. So one of them is testifying about the ksiv and the chsima. That's okay. Rashi points out that in the Gemara, on Tezayin Amud Beis, we're going to deal with this part of the Mishnah. We point out argues also with the first case. Okay, so we'll get there. Halach is not like Rabbi Yehuda. One shliach says it was written in front of me, and two say it was signed, and it's kosher. Why? We'll see in the Gemara. Gemara will analyze this. Says the Gemara, Hasu Lomali. Why do we need Hamevi Basur? Right? There's two Hamevis. Hamevi get. The first Perek tells us already this din. We already know. We learned in the beginning of the Masechta. Maybe get in Dinasiyam Tzarach Shiyayimar B'fana Nichtav B'fana Nechtav. Someone who brings a get from overseas, you have to say B'fana Nichtav B'fana Nechtav. So why do you have to say again that it's possible in 500 different ways? If you would just have the Mishnah in the first Perek, the first Mishnah in the Masechta, you would think that L'chatchila you have to say B'fana Nichtav B'fana Nechtav, but if you don't say it, it's still okay. Kamash Malan from our Mishnah that it's possible. The get is not okay. In other words, you have to go back to Medina Sayyam, receive it again. So Gemara asks a question. We said one of the cases was in front of me it was half written. So the Gemara asks, which half? It was half written, which half was written? If you're going to say the first half was written, didn't Rabbi Elazar say that all you have to do is write the first line of the get, Lishma, which is Shem Aish Vishav Azman. You don't need anything more. So if you saw the first half and that it was done Lishma, it should be okay. Rashi said all he saw was the last part of the shtar, the part of the get which is the same by everybody. It's not the unique details of the issue. So because it's not her unique details, that part, even if you saw it was done Lishma, is not going to help you. You have to have dafka in the first shita that was Lishma. Because you missed that, it's disqualified. Says the Gemara, 6 lines on the bottom, by the 2 dots. Shliach says, in front of me it was entirely written, but it was only halfway signed. Possible. He only saw one of the witnesses sign. Even if, so you have the shliach who's covering how many signatures? One. He's testifying about one of the signatures. Then you bring 2 other people who recognize the second signature. So they're Mekayim the signature from a different place. Even according to Rava that says it's not the problem is not lishma. Problem is because any between Mekayim, it's still going to be possible. Why is that? Why, even if you have Shnaim and Ashuk Midenshe that they're makir the Chasimus Yad Hasheni, why would it be possible? The Gemara explains. Like Kula became a get the Kula b'Tekanos. You can't have half one signature with Eidim, which is called Kiyam Get, and one signature with Tekanos Chachamim, which is a Shliach. Either or. You can't do a 50-50 situation. Chachamim, they were Misakin, that we believe the Shliach because he's Mekar Medek Daik. It's only if he saw both signatures. The moment he didn't see both, the Tekana is not going to work. Maski Flo, Rova asks a question. How could you say that? Look, it's an upgrade. If you have 2 witnesses testifying about the second signature, it's not a downgrade, it's an upgrade. Mika, is there anything? One person would say it would be kosher. In other words, if the shliach would say that he saw nechtam, both signatures, it's kosher. Hashadika today, possible. But now there's now you have 2 witnesses, all of a sudden it's going to be possible. How can you say such a thing? Hello, Marova. Rava explains what's the problem. If you would if there's another person helping the shliach testify about chsimas yad sheni, it's going to be paisel. Why? Why is it a problem? my time. Also, lachlufe bekim shtodas the alma v'kanofik nechi riva the mamoina pum b'dechatzah. You have the shliach testifying about one signature, and the shliach testifying about the second signature with somebody else helping him. So it's not because b'fana nechtam he didn't see this signature sign. It's because he recognizes the second signature. Problem is, what do you have here? You have a situation where 3/4 is coming out because of him. And only 1/4 is the second person. So you're going to have people will think that you could be Mekayim Ashtar with 3/4 based on one person and 1/4 on the other person. Rashi explains. What's an example? If you have two people signed in a shtar, one of them passes away. One of the Eidim comes and says, "This is my handwriting. This is the handwriting of my friend." And somebody helps him to testify about the handwriting of his friend. The Gemara tells us you have to have two other people testifying about the second person's signature. Because if so, if you're going to say that the first aid is allowed to testify about the second aid signature, you can have 3/4 going out by one person. Because a person is believed to say Zeksav Yodi. It's a problem. Torah says Al Pishnai, 50-50. So too by the get, if he says B'fanai Nechtam Chetziyoi, if he says that I only saw one signature, that's fine. However, the moment you say that he's allowed to testify with somebody else in regards to the second signature, even if it wasn't B'fanai Nechtam, there's a problem. It would be better for him to testify on his own without somebody else on both signatures, because the Chacham believe him like two. The moment he joins with somebody else, it makes it worse. It's not that be'etzim, it's a problem by get, because we believe him, he's considered like two. But because you might mix it up with other status where we don't have the takon of the shliach, we don't allow him to do that. That's Rava's opinion. Maskeflo Ravashi asks, Mika midi dilu masikle ihu lekule dibura kosh. If he himself would say the entire thing would be kosh. Is there such a thing that if he himself would say the entire thing would be kosh? Now you have somebody joining him, it's possible that also doesn't make sense. Ravashi, rather Ravashi has a third shot. Even if the shliach says, I am the second aid. So he's not saying b'fanai nechtam, he's saying I'm the second aid. It's possible. Why? My time I kula became a get to kula tekanos chum. You have to either do fully became a get as a what's it called? As an aid, or kula tekanos chum to say b'fanai nechtam. You can't say that the second witness signature is me. So basically, the Baal, the husband who's divorcing his wife, he has to be careful shlich that he's sending, how he does the shlichus. Maybe it's better not to send the aid so you don't have this problem. Okay, so now the Gemara analyzes Tnan, we said in the Mishna. The person says that it was entirely written in front of me and halfway signed. It's possible. How are we talking about, when we're talking about the second signature, what are we talking about? If you're saying that there's nobody testifying about the second signature at all, now, in a case where one shliach says it was written in front of him, the other one says it was signed in front of him. One of them is testifying about the entire writing of the shtar. The other one is testifying about the entire signing of the shtar. Possible, disqualified. If he's only testifying on half, is that even a question? Why do we need to even say this? Hello, rather, what is the chiddush? The chiddush of the Mishna must be to tell us that either he's joining with somebody else by the second signature, or like Ravashi, he's saying that he himself is the second signature. Says Rashi, you can't say that it's coming to teach us the chiddush of a fist, because that's a huge chiddush to say that two Eidim that are coming from the shuk can't testify about the second signature. No. Zeloi. Rav Chisda will tell you when it says that it was written in front of me but not signed. Why do you need that? Ma'adoch, if you have one witness saying that it was written, the other one signed, it's no good. Kolshkin, if only one says b'fanei nichtav. It's not that you need the chiddush. It's loizu avzu. You're saying one and of course the other. So too here. In this case also, it's one and of course the other, even though it's not such a big chiddush. Okay. Seems like the halacha is like a Ravashi. We're right now in the middle of Daf Tes Vav Amud Beis. Omer Rav Chisda. 14 lines in the bottom. And Daf Tes Vav Amud Beis. Omer Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said, Gidud Chamisha, Umechitza Chamisha in Mitzvah. Hajiyei, Oy Kulo, B'mechitza Kulo Begidud. We're already talking about the Chedushim of Rav Chisda, so we're going into a little bit of a different subject. Let's say you have a mound that's 5 tvachim high, and you add a wall. Is that considered a mechitza, which is 10 tvachim? When it comes to Rishu Yois, to make a Rishus HaYachid, to make a private domain, you need a wall which is 10 tvachim high. It also is fine to have a mound. Can you have a mound plus a wall on top of it? A 5 tvachim plus 5 tvachim? Says Rav Chisda, no. You need to have either entirely a wall or entirely gidud. Darash Meremar, however, expounded and he disagreed, and he held gidud chamisha mechitza, hey, mitzdarf, they do join. The 50-50. The hilchasa mitzarfin. The halacha is that it joins. Okay. Rashi explains it's not because of the chiddush of Rav Chisda, rather it's because we were talking about oy kuloi has to be or to kanas chacham or the kiyama get. So oy kuloi mechitza, oy kuloi gidud. Mar goes on. Boy, Yilfa asks the question. One second. Sorry. Are you able to use the phone? My battery's going to Sorry, back to the Gemara. Boy, Ilfa asked the question. Can you make your hand half Torah or not? Hey, Chidami, what are we talking about? If you're going to tell me you're talking about that you wash 2 hands with a revius, so really you need a revius per hand. You wash 2 hands with a revius. But Tanan says clearly in the Mishna, you can use a revius of water to wash for 1 or for 2. Rather, you're washing 1 hand at a time, and only then are you washing the other one. The Gemara says also over there that if you wash 1 hand with netila that you pour water on your hand with a kli, and the other one is shtifa that you put in a river, and a mikveh, let's say, you're taught. No problem. You're washing half your hand at a time. So is that okay? They said in the Yeshiva, Rabbi Yana, you're not allowed to do such things. So what's the question? What's the question of Ilfa? Okay. The Gemara answers like tzricha. The ika mashka tefeach. the water, you did wash your hands in two halves. So first you wash half your hand and then you wash the other. But the liquid is still wet on the first half of your hand. So maybe that's fine. In such a case, we didn't dry the first half yet, it's still wet. Maybe the new water on the second half of your hand is mitzvah joins to the water of the first half of your hand. How is it going to help if you have wet mashke that's wet? But now it says in the Mishnah. We're now on the next page, and Daf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph. Hanitzik, if you have a flow, the Mishnah Maseches Taharis. Vaktafres, you have a slant, a slope that's very sharp. Umashke tifeyach, and if you have a liquid that's wet, doesn't help you. So Rashi explains, what are we talking about? What's l'tumah? He explains. If you're pouring from a kli that's tar to a kli that's tummy, and you have a kiluach that's mechaber, there's a flow, there's a stream of liquid attaching the two kelim. It's not mechaber to be matama the mashkan yodim. In a chanami, whatever liquid flows into the lower kli, the lower bowl is going to become tummy. If it goes into a tummy bowl, it's going to become tummy. But whatever goes back up is not a chibur. It's not tummy. If you have a midroin, you poured something down this mountain, it's not a problem. It's not going to be taught. Whatever's on the top remains on top. It's not tummy. Let's say you had an arevo. Rashi said a big bowl, a big trough, very long trough, and in two ends of the trough there's liquid, and there's mashke tefech in the middle. That's not a chibur. Let's say you have two mikvahs, and one mikvah has 40 sois, the other one doesn't have 40 sois, and there's a connection because there's a flow between them, where it's like a slope, and you have mashke tefech. That's not a chibur. So we see clearly from this Mishnah, Maseches Taharis, the mashke tefech, even if your hand remains wet, it's not going to help you. It's not a chibur. The Gemara answers, talking about a case that it's not just wet, it could also make something else wet. It can make something else wet.
No, wait, what am I saying?
So the Gemara says,
Talking. Could you take it out of the hardship?
yes. So the Gemara asks, we also learned about tefech avanas tefach. There's a very big concept in Chassidus. To make somebody, you yourself are inspired. It's not enough. You have to make others inspired as well, so they can spread the wealth. It's not enough that you're wet. You have to make others wet, so that they can make others wet, and so on. Well, obviously, can't go on. I mean, begashmis can't go on forever. So the Gemara says, if it's wet enough to make other things wet, that is a chibur. Maybe it's only for mikveh that it's a chibur, not for yadayim. Rabbi Yudi, and it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. By Netila, however, it's a shayla. It's not. It says in the Mishnah, mikveh sheyesh by aboyim so mechuvanis. Let's say you have a mikveh with exactly 40 saw in it. Two people went and they went to the mikveh at the same time, and they're tar. If they went to mikveh one after the other, rishon tar. The first one is tar. The second one's tar because there's no longer going to be in the mikveh 40 saw. He already carries out some of the water. First person already took out some of the water. If the feet of the first person are still touching the water, the second person is going to be tar. Because all the water which the Rishon took out is going to be mechuber to the mikveh, is connected to the mikveh. So we see Rabbi Yehuda holds up regards to mikveh, but who says l'gabi yadayim, the same thing will apply. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, they said, somebody who puts his head and most of his body in mayim shuvim, drawn water from a kli. If you have somebody who's tar and on his head and most of his body fell 3 lugim of mayim shuvim, tame, he's tame for truma. He has to toivel. It's the gzeira of Beis Shammai. The reason is, this is actually a very big concept when it comes to mikvah. The reason is because they used to have caves that were very spoiled. The water was spoiled for tefillah. And after the tefillah, they wouldn't take a shower. And they started to think that the shower was matar. So therefore they said, it makes you tummy. That's a hard gzeda because it means you have to stink if you want to make yourself tar. Yeah, so even not only if it's you walk into Maim Shufim, even if it goes on your head, Maim Shufim, it's also a problem, makes you tummy. Okay.
But David, he's saying it, he's not saying it makes you tummy only if you pour a certain amount on your head. So if you keep less than that, you'd be okay.
So you're saying you take a shower in a very, very short intervals?
You run through just to get the stench out.
Just like a little spritz. I hear you. Rav Yirmiyah brought this day. Now he has this question. What if you go halfway into Maim Shufim and the other half is a shower? What's the din? Take it, we don't know the answer. Rav Papa said, Hari Omru Balkari Choyl. You have a Balkari who's a choyle, and what is he supposed to do? He's supposed to go to the mikvah, but he's a choyle, it's very hard for him. You could put Tisha Kavim of Maim Shuvim on himself to retire him. So Takonos Chacham to help him out. So the question is, what if it was Baida Papa Chetzi B'Tvida B'Chetz B'Nesina? It was half toiling and half putting on the Tisha Kavim. My take it, we don't know the answer. Okay. We're up to the two dots now on the bottom of the page. We'll do at least one more. Ahmed, 1 second. I'll be back in a second. Sorry. Okay, sorry. For 3 lines, the bottom of the Zayin of it all. Rab Shmuel bar Yehuda Rab Yochanan. Like Shana Elish, and I get Yotzim Mitachas Yidei Payim. Bar Yehuda said to Yochanan, this is only if they're not both shluchim. If they're not both shluchim, only one of them is a shliach, and he has to say, but he didn't say it. He's using somebody else to help him, saying it doesn't work. The other guy wasn't a shliach. And the real shliach is only doing half of his mission. But if they're both shluchim, they're both holding on to it. And they're both shluchim, so then it's kosher. Even though how did it help the fact that one said b'fan and nichtav and the other one said b'fan and neftam? Only one of them has to say both. Did we say normally? You don't want to get mixed up with Kim Shtaras Dalma when there's only going to be one shliach. It is kosher. 2 people who brought a get. In a case where 2 people brought a get, it's clear. You know exactly what's going on. It's not shchiach, and there's no reason to be machmer. That's his shita, his svara. Says the Gemara, if you get into the siyam, they don't even need to say it because they hold like bro. They hold the shita that it's only because they need the mitzuyim l'kain. And you're not going to be make a mistake with Kim Shtaras Dalma. Because you have two shluchim. The Gemara now asks, Abaye said, "Let me have to say for the end of the Mishnah." It says in the end of the Mishnah, two shluchim say it was written, and one says it was signed in front of him. It's possible, but we're going to say the same thing. It's only because they're not both shluchim. But if they would be both shluchim, and the chum will say it's mutter. He says yes. If the case is that if that's the case of the Mishnah that they're not both shluchim, why? What is the machlekes between Rav Yehuda and the chacham? So the answer is Marsovar. Gazrin and Dilma Asi lechlufa b'kim shtaris dalma beidecha. That where there's a gzeira that you might get mixed up with kim shtaris dalma beidecha. Marsovar loy gazrina. The other opinion is that there's no gzeira. So if you only have one shliach, but there's two people, Tanakama holds even though there's the shliach is the one who's saying b'fanei nechtam. Nevertheless, because he didn't say b'fanei nichtov, it's possible. This one shliach, because gzeira the mosel achlufi. If there's two shliachim, it's one thing, but if there's only one shliach, he has to say everything. Because Yehuda holds. In other words, the way that we're explaining the case is two people from the shuk are saying b'fanei nichtov, and the shliach says b'fanei nechtam. Nechtam, in front of me was signed. According to the Tanakama, what do you mean? He's saying b'fanei nechtam, and he's like two people because he didn't say b'fanei nichtov. It's gzeira. According to Rav Yehuda, no, we have two other shluchim in his place to testify, so you're not going to come to get mixed up. Okay, so that's the first way to explain it. The first way to explain it is this whole Mishnah is only if you don't have two shluchim. If you have two shluchim, it's fine. Talking about where you don't have two shluchim. So if you don't have two shluchim, why review to say it's okay? Because he's talking about you have two people testifying b'fanei nichtov, in front of me it was written, and the shliach says b'fanei nechtam, in front of me it was signed. Now it's a different lishna achrino, another version. Amri lo. Even if the get was coming from under both of them, it's possible it's disqualified. He must hold like the opinion that it says that the two witnesses will have to say b'fanei nechtam, b'fanei nechtam. Abaye said alamiyat seifa, but now in the seifa of the Mishnah, it says that it was written in front of us. Two people say it's written in front of us. One says b'fanei nechtam possible. Rabban the Chum will say it's possible even if there's two shluchim, and two of them say b'fanei nichtov, and one says b'fanei nechtam. He said, yeah. What's the machlekes of Rav Yehuda and Tanakama? According to the Tanakama, they're not baki l'shma. So the two shluchim have to say it. And if only one of them says b'fanei nechtav, it's not going to help you. Therefore, they don't have to say anything. Two shluchim don't have to say anything according to Rav Yehuda. So even if even if only one of them says b'fanei nechtav, it doesn't do anything. Based on this, if you're going to say the Chacham and Rav Yehuda, based on this version, are arguing on the shittas of Rab and Rava. So let's say this is a machlekes tonight. No, Rava mitaris kalishna kam. Rava will say, like the first lishna, that if you have two shluchim, everybody will agree it's fine. The machlekes is dafke when you don't have two shluchim, and we explained that the Chachamim say that if two witnesses testify about the ksiva and the shliach testifies about the chsima, we make a gzeira because you might get mixed up with kim tzaras alma of the world. And if you have According to Rabbi Yehuda, however, he's not worried. And Rabbi will say, everybody holds both Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham that you need lishma. That's the case. Why is Rabbi Yehuda lenient? They had already learned. The problem is, are we worried that people they'll forget again? According to the Chachamim, we're geyser, even though people are already baki the Shema, we're geyser no matter what. And Marzover Legazin and Review says there's no gzeda. People already know that it has to be the Shema. So now the Gemara asks for Liflik Nam Review the Bereisha. Oh. If you say that we're talking, if you say we're not talking about that, it's Yitzim Mitachas Edeshneim, that two shluchim don't eat. So there's a difference in the Reish and the Sefer. But if you say that the whole Mishnah is talking about Dafke with two shluchim, why don't we say review this Machshir in the Reish also? If you have two shluchim, you don't have to say B'fan HaNichtav, B'fan HaNichtav. You don't have to say anything. That's why it's okay. You should say review the Machshir, according to the first version. No, according to the second version, that with two shluchim, review this Machshir, he says it's kosher. Should also say it's kosher in the first case. That one says B'fan HaNichtav, one says B'fan HaNichtav. So the Gemara answers, review the cholak review the afberishan. We have a Ra'ula said that Review also was lenient in the first case. That one witness says one shliach said b'fan HaNichtav, the other one said b'fan HaNichtav. Mosiv Rav Oishi al Ulo. Rav Oishi asked the question to Ulo. It says in the Mishnah, it says Rav Yehuda Machshir, and we have it says in the Brisa, Rav Yehuda Machshir b'zuv leibachis. He's only Machshir in this case and not another one. Ula wanted to explain that the Mishnah he's Machshir in both cases. If you have two people saying b'fan HaNichtav and one b'fan HaNichtav, or one b'fan HaNichtav and one b'fan HaNichtav, he's Machshir in both cases. The problem is we have a Brisa that says Rav Yehuda Machshir b'zuv leibachis. My love, probably it's to exclude a case where one says the other one says because we're not talking about shluchim. The shliach only did half. Says the Gemara, excluding the case where there's only one shliach and he says b'fan neftam and not b'fan niftam. And you might think to say, Rav Yehuda already didn't decree that even that after the moment they learned that you have to be baki l'shma, he did make a decree that we're worried that they might forget again. So maybe you might think to say that we shouldn't make a gzeiro that you might get mixed up in a case where he says b'fan HaNichtav, but not b'fan HaNichtav. So Chayda seemingly b'fan HaNichtav avalei b'fan HaNichtav. Maybe there shouldn't be any problem because in a case where he just says b'fan HaNichtav and not b'fan HaNichtav, what's the reason why it's a problem? Because it's a gzeira that you might come to get mixed up. Bikim shtaris down. You might get mixed up with.
Fatih, Izzy made a calf.
Oh, thanks. You might get mixed up with Kim Shtaris Dalmo. So in a case where he did not, we see Rabbi Yehuda is not choishish that you might forget again. Maybe he also won't make such a gzera, so won't make such a decree. Mashmallah, and then in such a case, when it comes to a question of mixing up with other shtaris, he's going to be geyser. In such a case, he'll agree that we're going to be geyser, that we're going to make such a decree.
What's geyser?
To make such a decree, he's worried that we're going to make such a decree. Gemara now has a proof. Itmar, Nami, if you have two people who brought a get from overseas, this is the machlekes of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. So we're talking about two shlochim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, this is the way Rabba will explain it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even though we forgot, nevertheless, we're not worried. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they already know that it has to be lishma, so there's no problem. There's no problem between the kaimoi. People know it has to be lishma, and he doesn't make a gzeda that they might forget again. According to the chachamim, they're worried they make a gzeda that they might forget again, so therefore it's not okay. If you have two shluchim that brought a get from dinas hayam, do they both have to say everything? Okay, now we have a story. Rabba Bar Chana Cholash. Rabba Bar Chana got sick. Rav Rabba went to visit him. They asked the question from him. Poor guy, he's sick, but I guess that gives him chayis. You learn Torah with him. So they have two people who bring a get and dinas yam have to say b'fneinu nichtav nechtam or not. Said they don't have to. If they would say that she was divorced in front of us, of course they're believed. So to here, they don't have to say anything when they bring a get in dinas yam. There was a certain Parsi that came, and Shokla the Sharga took the candle from front of them. They had a rule, the Persians, the Chavrim, they're very nasty people. You're not allowed to light a candle on the day of their special day, besides on their base of a Zora. Omar Rahmana. Either take us in your shadow, or at least I'll call upon him in the hands of Esau. Now that we know the history, it's hard to understand. The Gemara right away asks, telling me that the Romans are better than the Persians? But Tani in the Brisa, what does it mean? What is he saying? David knew the derech of the Bnei Torah, that they're not going to be able to receive the gzedus of the Romans. So he exiled them to Bava. So Gemara answers like Kasha, it's Nishkin Kasha. Before the Chavim came to Bavel, the Babylonians were better. In the days of the Kastim, Nebuchadnezzar, Evel, Merodach, and Belshazzar, there was a certain covenant for the Klal Yisrael. After the Chavim, Rashi says, from times of Kodesh, the situation in Bavel got a lot worse. Interesting. Kodesh and Achashverosh, I guess they had a very, very difficult time until Daryavish. All right. Well, we'll stop here. We're up to the 2 dots on Daf Yud Zayin. Theoretically, it would be nice to have a Mishna, but we'll do a little Yerushalmi.
Yud Zayin, near the top. Okay, Baruch, you can log on. What do you call it? Set up the.
We're up to the second Perek in the Yerushalmi.
Right at the beginning of the second Perek, or is it?
Yeah. Okay, so the Mishnah says, it's the exact same Mishnah we just learned. Maybe get in dinasiyam, somebody who brings a get from overseas. Says it was written in front of me, but not signed. And then he says, it was signed in front of me, but not written. It was written entirely in front of me, but only signed half. In front of me was written half, and signed fully, it's possible. One says that it was written, the other one says it was signed, it's possible. If two people say it was written in front of us and one says it was signed, it's possible for Rabbi the Mashra. In such a case, Rabbi says it's kosher. In the case where, however, one says and two people say then it is kosher. That's where it gets confusing. Why is that? We'll see in the Gemara. Because you have two edim that are made on the chsima. Even if you only have one who talks about the ksiva, it's fine. Zog the Gemara, very interesting question. Maybe get in dinasiyam. It makes sense to say the case where he says that it was written in front of me but not signed. If you say that it was signed but not written, why do you have to talk about how it was written? It should be enough just to say b'fanei nechtam, says the Yerushalmi. The kima get this v'chaismov. We established the get through its signatures. So why do you need the shliach to say b'fanei nechtam? Why does he have to say it was written in front of me? That's the question. Hey, look at Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, it must be that our Mishnah is according to Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? The Rabbi Yehuda poisel b'toifs. Rabbi Yehuda says the ksiva has to be also the shema. He says you're not allowed to have.
What does the word toifsing mean?
Like the text of the get also has to be written lishma for the sake of the woman. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. You have the toifus and the toiruf. The toiruf is the second half, where it's like the lashon of the get. The toifus is the first half. And according to the Korban Eidah, in the Bavli we clearly said you just need. According to the Korban Eidah, even though Rabbi Yehuda only requires the toifus to be written lishma, the shema and Shem Aisha, his name, the wife of the woman, the zman, the time. Nevertheless, even if you're made, you have to be made on the toifus. No, sorry. The main thing is to be made on the toifus, according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to the Tanakama, the Pnei Moshe brings later on in the third Perek. According to the Tanakama, the sheikh is allowed to write all the toifus. He could write the text of the get to have it ready for him, so he doesn't have to work on the last second. The toiruf has to be the toiruf is the makayma ish v'isha and zman is the toiruf, and the toifus is the rest of the get. Rabbi Yehuda says it's possible. He says you need ksiva lishma, and everything has to be lishma, both the toifus and the toiruf, because of exedus, you don't get mixed up between one and the other. So it must be according to Rabbi Yehuda. Must be that our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda that the ksiva has to be lishma, not the Tanakama. Tanakama only requires the toiruf to be lishma. Shmoi v'shma b'shem v'zman. So now the Gemara asks, do Rabbi Yehuda b'chutz haaretz v'megarish v'eretz Yisrael? According to Rabbi Yehuda, we're talking about someone from chutz haaretz who's being megarish in Eretz Yisrael. You're talking about a maybe get in dinasiyam. V'yesh teifsei Gittin b'chutz haaretz megarish b'chutz haaretz. You also have teifsei Gittin b'chutz haaretz. Sorry, 1 second. Actually, I have to change my phone is the battery is dying. Give me a second, sorry, I should get this in order. Change the charger. Second. Okay. Sorry. So the Gemara asks, yes, Toif say Gittin b'chutz la'aretz, v'megadish b'chutz la'aretz at she'yeda shu get isha, v'megadish l'chutz la'aretz. L'choiro, you're going to have to be. What about in chutz la'aretz? What if you're being begadish a woman in chutz la'aretz? And ba'isa medina. L'choiro, you're going to say that you don't have to say b'fan nichtam b'fan nechtam in such a case. In such a case, Rabbi Yehuda will say it's okay, that there's no problem if it's ba'isa medina b'chutz la'aretz. Ad she'yedushu gets isho, ad she'yedushu nasa shliach. Rather, the reason is, according to the way Pnei Moshe explains, because you have to know that it's a get isha and that you're a shliach to him. You're not going to know b'shas ma'aseh that it's a get isha, so therefore it has to be fully written and signed in front of you. That's the reason, not because of Rabbi Yehuda, rather because it has to be written fully and signed in front of you.
But by the first line, you already know it's a get isha. The rest is just the text.
Interesting. When is the shliach going to be medayik on the get? This is the Ritbaz. He's explaining. It's only if he knows that he's a shliach. What if he doesn't know that he's a shliach? He's not going to be so medayik. Therefore, dafka for shliach chomer ma'imit, for him to say b'fanach b'fanach. So you have to, before the ksiva, you have to tell him that he's going to be the shliach, and he's only going to be medayik if it's fully written in front of him. Be'esa ksiva. In the chetzi harisha. So we do have machlokes in the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. According to the Bavli, you only have to really know Shmoi Shema Ish, only the first part, like you said. According to what's it called? According to the Yerushalmi, no, we're choishish that we don't know what it is until you actually hear the toifus, the actual text, which is that he's getting a get. Otherwise, if you just have his name, her name, and the time, it's not enough. You have to hear the whole thing. You have to watch the whole thing. Reb Chanan said, if he was going in and out, it's mutter. Okay, we're doing just one more shtickle to the next two dots. Rabbi Yossi asked the question. He said, but in between, the owner took it, the husband took it. We can learn from this case. It says that if one said and one said it's possible. It's only because one said one and one said the other. But if he said but it was in the owner's rishus, so in such a case, it's kosher. It's going to be kosher. We're not kosher that maybe he's switching it out for another get. We have a similar question further on, but I guess we'll stop here.
Thank you.